At the request of son Kevin, I'm here to talk a little bit about my life. First thing I want to say to everybody is we never know where our lives are going to go. I would say the Lord blessed me with a very good life. My parents, as you all know, Norma and Nonna Marcolini, came here from Dignano, Italy. It's so interesting that Norma came at age 19, Nonna came at age 4. They knew the families in Dignano, but they met here and got married. And coming to America, going to Congo, West Virginia, and ending up in Brownsville, Pennsylvania is quite interesting because when they came, and Nono had to have a job, of course, to come to America, it was working in the brickyards in Congo, and that didn't appeal to him. So he left there and went to Greensburg. And then when the coal mine started, he was very anxious to do that type of work, which he knew it was going to be a good job. So he ended up in Brownsville. They originally lived in West Brownsville, in Centerville, actually, Vesta 7. And that's where Uncle Bobby and Uncle Johnny were born. And then they moved to Brownsville, and that's where I was born, 1203 2nd Street in Brownsville, in 1931. It's a very interesting community to grow up in, neighborhood and everything. And it was just a lot of friends around there. And we really, I would say, had a very enjoyable childhood growing up in that neighborhood. The Noons next door neighbors, the Fords, the next door neighbors, and I enjoyed growing up there. When I was born, of course, that was after the Depression. And it was a nice time to be living here. But the joyous part that I think of growing up in Brownsville was to be here during their heyday. We're talking about the 40s. I'm about 10 years old, and Nonna, Nono, Uncle Bobby, Uncle Johnny, and myself would walk downtown on Saturday nights to a town that was packed with people. Brownsville, because it was the center place of a little shopping town, became the mecca for all the coal patch towns in the area. So in coal patch towns, you had a company store where you could buy what you really needed. But if you wanted a beautiful wedding dress, if you wanted a nice car, if you wanted any of the nice things in life, you came to Brownsville. Our streets were lined with people. Both sides of downtown Brownsville had huge businesses. And we had a great Jewish population, which was wonderful, and many, many stores. It was exciting to live through that period. And there's so many fond memories. I could talk for hours about the fond memories at that time. But the things that stick out in my mind is that after we were through shopping, Nonna would go have a beer with his friends in the beer gardens, because there were a lot of those in downtown. Nonna had to go to the 5 and 10 and buy all the things she needed, threads and everything else. And then we would go to Fiddles, have a hot dog, and Nonna loved a hot dog and a root beer. Nonna, of course, would eat a hot dog and drink a beer, and we were all have our hot dogs. And that was a fun thing, and we went home. So that was sort of a fun Saturday night in my growing up years. Of course, then time goes on, and I graduate from high school and get a job the day after graduation at Max Goldman's Chrysler Plymouth Agency. And that was another great experience in my life. The Goldmans were just absolutely wonderful people to me. I learned so much from Mr. Max Goldman. He was a very wise, thrifty man who taught me a lot about living on a budget, and he just, many, many lessons I learned there. And that's where I met Tom Ryan, who was a mechanic while I was working in the office. And we began dating, and 1951, we got married. April 1951, we got married and had 3 wonderful children. Kent in 1952, Maureen 1954, and Kevin in 1957. By that time, the town it really wasn't going into decline at all. It was after the war, and things were slowing down a bit, but it was a nice time to raise them because the people that lived in the neighborhoods here were just friendly, and we bought the house on Pearl Street right before Maureen was born. I was pregnant with Maureen. We moved here January 1954, and it's a great neighborhood with a lot of young people. And so it was a fun time raising a family with Don and Norma living right down over the hill and Grandpa and Grandma Ryan living up on the north side. And we spent our Sundays visiting all the families and all that fun kind of things. And after graduation of all three of them, and Kent, after college, went to Florida. Maureen followed, she went to beauty school, went to Florida. Kevin went to college, went to Florida, and all three settled in Florida. And I then became more like a caretaker, helping Nana and Norma because as they were aging and health issues, I spent a lot of time with them. And during that period, after the children were all gone, what some people call that empty nest syndrome, I became a little more involved in the community. I began teaching CCD through the church, and that was a great experience, especially with the young people. The preschoolers was just a great experience. And then later they transferred me to teaching the 5th grade. But I also became a little more involved in the community. And that wasn't new to me because when the children were growing up, I was involved with Cub Scouts, I was involved with PTA. And so I guess part of my personality is I like being with people. I liked being around people because I just felt I learned so much. And then, of course, the great experience is when Kevin was 4 years old and Christine D'Imperio, who lived across the street, had read in the paper where they were having a 2-for-1 program at the beauty school in Uniontown. And Christine said she always wanted to go to beauty school. And she knew that I was doing neighbors' hair because I've always loved to do hair. Did Nana's hair from the time I was very young. And so I did talk it over with Tom. He thought it was a good idea to go to beauty school. He thought that was very good. I talked it over with Nana, and she says, well, that's great. I think that's good, and I'll be happy to watch Kevin while you go to school. And talked it over with Norma. That was a different subject. Norma's comment was, you got married, you had kids, you stay home and raise them. You don't need to go out and go anywhere. And, of course, it doesn't mean I always listen to everything that everybody says. And so my stubborn side of me, I guess, took over. And I did go to beauty school with Christine. And that, too, was a great experience. The beauty school people were so nice because I did explain to them that I could not go until after my children went to school in the morning, until I dropped Kevin off at my mom's, and I wanted to be home when they got home from school. So they were very accommodating. It's 1,000 hours going to beauty school, but mine drug out a little long. I mean, it was 1,000 hours, but I didn't get done as soon as some people do because it took us a lot longer. And that was a good experience. And then opening the beauty shop in my home was just a wonderful experience. Raising a family, learning so much from the ladies in the beauty shop was a great experience there too. So that part of the growing up with the family and my involvement in the career, that was very, very helpful. And then, of course, as things moved along, not everything is peaches and cream in life, and so happened marriage was falling apart. And as you all know that story, it's a heartbreaker, but these things do happen in life. So we move ahead a bit back. I'm sorry, I'm backtracking my story here, but we move ahead a little, and families all living in Florida. I'm divorced, and getting a little more involved in the community and helping Nana and B, of course. But 1985, when they both passed away, Nana passed away in September, Norma in December. And that really left a void in my life. And it's sometimes, sit back and say, Lord, what's next? What is next? And believe me, he found a lot next in my life because I became a lot more involved in the community. And it's in 1989 when a group came to Brownsville to help organize an organization called Brownsville Area Revitalization Corporation. And they were looking for people in the community. I don't know how they found people or how they found my name, but I do recall the lady coming to the door and asked if she could come in and speak with me and asking me questions like, what's my vision for the town? And I had no clue what she's talking about. I mean, I could tell you about hair. I had no idea about a vision of the town, but they soon educated us. They gathered Bertie Seaman, myself, and quite a few friends. There were about, I think, 11 of us that they started to train us and establish an organization. They established a nonprofit, a 501c3, and we sat on the board. That was a very learning experience in my life. It's 1990, and wow, learning about grants that I knew nothing about, learning about planning for the future, and so that was very, very involved. So my involvement with BARC, as we call Brownsville Area Revitalization Corporation, that began in 1989, continues to this day. I've sat on the board for all those years. I did resign from the board about 3 or 4 years ago, but now I'm back on again just to help them come back to life a little bit. We're very fortunate that we had training for BARC. Our board worked together very well. In addition to the 2 great museums we did, we really renovated buildings. We did quite a few events. We had the Taste of Italy event, the Ducky Race event, and we did a lot of very interesting things in the community. Almost 30 years of BARC doing activity after activity, but what really gave this town a jump start was when our students at the high school, when they decided that they were going to do a project in our downtown. They had submitted something to the Jefferson Awards, and they wanted to do something for the town. A choice could do the school or the town, and they chose to build a stage in our downtown. Oh my gosh, that is what got the town excited. It seemed once those students did something, everyone got involved. And how can you turn your back on young people when they do something that was so exciting? They raised $400,000 and built a stage in our downtown. Shortly after that, we had an investor come in, build 24 apartments for affordable housing for seniors, and it's filled, a waiting list. Just so much has happened with those young people. They additionally did an addition to the library. So it often takes our young people to get everyone motivated and involved. And that just was, I think, what gave Brownsville one good start. And the fact that just in the year 2019, our chamber was able to have ribbon cutting for 12 new businesses. So we are on our road to a revitalization that is going to be long-lasting, and we'll just give our young people a lot of credit for that. Grateful for that, and so pleased with all of that. I believe our vision for the future is very stable. I also believe that there will be so much within the next few years. I look for so much to be happening in this town, and my vision is quite extensive. I feel very, very, very blessed that we have so many people that care in this community. We have a lady that asks us all to join her at 9 o'clock every evening, say an Our Father, for a healing of this pandemic worldwide. So many of my friends, myself included, have set that alarm on our telephones that reminds us 9 o'clock, time to say the Our Father and a prayer for healing of the pandemic. And the beautiful part is that when I was visiting with a family in Florida, we got them involved in it. And it's happened with many friends that maybe have been here visiting with me at 9 o'clock, time to say the Our Father. So those are some of the things that happen in this town of people who care. I believe if we want to say a motto for Brownsville, it's people care. So in all that involvement with Bark and learning a lot, along comes a friend that said, we have an opening on our city commission on our government, our local government, for a borough council person. Would you be interested? And I said, no, thank you. I grew up with a mother who said we don't discuss politics or religion because you usually end up in an argument. And I said, no. Well, needless to say, I guess I didn't win that argument because they convinced me that I should run for office. So in 1994, and it was a 4-year term, I was elected to the office of councilperson for Brownsville. Again, a learning experience. It was then that I just learned so much about the political world and that Brownsville wasn't quite ready for women leaders. When I came in and wanted to come in with ideas, because, look what we've been doing at Bark, and can we do some things here? I got shut up, and the president of the council at that point didn't appreciate any of my opinions. So the only committee that I served on in those 4 years was the waste garbage. I call it the garbage committee, but anyhow, that was it. But I was happy to work on that, and we did start our recycling program in the community. So I did have some people on council, some of the guys on council that really worked with me, and it was a learning experience. But I thought that's the end of the political world in my life. And so go on to do other little things and get more involved in the community with the Historical Society and with the River Towns Committee. And I was just serving on a lot of boards, a hospital board, and there were just many boards I was serving on. And then comes this request, we want you to run for mayor. And I said, no way, I am not running for politics anymore. I had my fill. But, of course, again, they convinced me that I should do that. And so I put my name in. It was interesting that and I'm a registered Democrat, that the head of the Democrat Party came to me and said that they would like to sponsor me. And politics is not something that I knew much about. I said, well, let me discuss this with my family. So, of course, I called Kemar and Kevin, talk about it, and their comments to me were, well, you just know, Mom, that if they sponsor you and they'll pay your whole campaign, they're still going to want you to listen to them, and they're going to expect that reciprocation from you. And I thought, and they all agreed that I wouldn't have liked that very much. So I went to the gentleman. He was such a gem, a really nice guy. And I explained to him that, my kids offered to pay for my campaign. And so that I didn't feel that that's what I would, that I'd prefer to just do it on our own. And he said that was okay. So they of course sponsored someone else. And in the primary, that person won on the Democrat ticket. And I did not know that my Republican friends had written me in the primaries, and there were, I think, 12 votes. You had to have 10 votes, I think, to get on the ballot, and I had like 12. I was able to get on the ballot in the general election, and I won, which to this day, I want to say to everybody, you never know what the Lord has in store for you, because if anyone would have told me when I was 12, 14, 15, that someday you're going to get in politics, I'd have said they were crazy. Even when I was 20, I'd have still told them they were crazy. But we never know what the Lord has in store. And that was an absolutely wonderful experience. It really was the goal, or the service of the mayor in a small borough like Brownsville is that you're in charge of the police department. And I was blessed to have great police officers. I learned so much from them. We had so many wonderful stories of those 4 years that was just wonderful. And we were able to do some grants and get some really nice needs for the police department. So that was a really great experience. And then when I ran for re-election, I lost by 7 votes. But I just felt that was part of God's plan. I feel I learned so much during those 4 years that to this day it still helps me. I'm this side note that is so funny. I'm in process of rehab, cardiac rehab, and sitting in that room with, waiting to get all this exercise, and some lady walks up to me that's an employee at the hospital and said, "Oh, weren't you the mayor in Brownsville?" And I went, "Yes," I had no clue who she was. So it is interesting that, people do follow you. I think of so many things. One thing that comes to mind that makes me laugh is Amy, or my dear niece Amy. She said, "I love to get up in the morning and read the paper and see what Ryan said today, because, when the newspaper writes, they may give your name in the beginning, but when they quote you beyond that, they just use your last name." And she thought that was the funniest thing ever in the paper to read. As much as I always said I didn't want to be in the political world, it really opened so many doors for us, because I was the first female mayor in the borough of Brownsville, and Brownsville was founded in 1814, and I became the mayor in the year 2000. So I was the very first female mayor in Brownsville. Hasn't been one since. Maybe they can't stand it anymore and have another female in there. But it was a great experience. It really was. I just enjoyed it. And I have to say, I think I've even enjoyed the years after being the mayor, because once you know how the political system works, and then you're a John Q. citizen again, I think you can almost get more done. It's interesting because you know what's going on, and you know how to, try to get in and do things that really need to be done. So I do feel that the Lord has guided me into doing some absolutely outstanding things in life that I, never thought I would be able to do. So that's been some of the blessings, and there's been challenges, and I've made mistakes. And I know we had a wonderful architect, Mr. Albert Filoni, and was so interesting when we were looking for. Bart was looking for an architect because our community organizers were able to give us a structural engineer, everything we needed to renovate the Flatiron building. And they said, well, now we do need an architect, but they didn't have one to suggest. So they said, well, maybe you can find one in Brownsville. And I went, oh my gosh, we have coal miners in Brownsville. We don't have architects. And so with the beauty shop there, my ladies wanted to know everything that was happening. And I was sharing with them that we were looking for an architect now. And I thought, there's no way we can find an architect. And talk about the Lord's guidance here again. The lady I was working on her hair, she said to me, have you ever asked my nephew? And I said, well, who's your nephew? And she said, Albert Filoni. And I says, Anne, are you kidding me? He's done the Benedum Center and the Heinz Hall Theater. Do you think he's going to come to Brownsville? So she gets in her purse, paper, pencil, writes down a phone number, and she says, you call him and tell him Aunt Annie said for him to come to Brownsville. Well, naive and dumb as I am, later that day, I picked up the phone and called that number thinking I was calling his office. And this male answers the phone, and I says, "May I speak with Mr. Filoni?" Speaking. Well, I almost passed out because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, And so I did explain to him what I was looking for. And he said, he was born in California, PA. And he said, I haven't done anything in the area. I'd love to come. He was a godsend to us because he guided Mark through getting buildings renovated, teaching us. And he was like the construction manager. He watched everything. Well, then comes along another project that was to be some selective demo. You don't need an architect for that. So we're on our own. And I thought, I think I learned from Albert. Well, I didn't learn because when the construction person said, "I think we might be able to save you some money with T&M." Well, what do I know what T&M is? I can tell you about hair. But I could go on telling many, many funny stories and many fun experiences that I had during that period. And even since then, I feel that I've just enjoyed staying in this community that is so full of history. And I love history, in spite of the fact that cleaning through the house and finding my report card of when I was in, I think, 5th grade, and I got a D in history. And here I am today, loving history. So, and again, we never know what our future is going to hold. I feel today that I am extremely blessed with a wonderful family, with wonderful grandchildren. I love each and one of them dearly. And I feel so blessed that I've learned so much from them, and I continue learning. I don't think a day goes by that I haven't learned something. As Kevin and Susan can say, I'm still learning today. Every day we mention something, it's like, oops, that's a new experience. So I just want to say life is absolutely wonderful as long as you keep a positive attitude, as long as you keep your faith. To me, faith is the foundation of all that we do in life. And I think the Lord's got great plans for all of us. And He's given each one of us a gift. When I think of raising 3 little bumpkins, Cameron and Kevin, and how they've grown into 3 different worlds, and yet they have great values, but they've just grown into 3 totally different worlds that I admire and love. And the grandchildren that they've given are just the greatest blessings I have in the world. I love each and every one of you so very much. And I just guess if I wanted to say something is keep an open mind, stay positive, keep your faith, and know that the Lord loves you even though you make mistakes. I've made many dumb mistakes in my life, but through it all, the Lord loves us, He supports us, and He gave each one of us a guardian angel that's looking out for every little need we have. And I suggest that you go forth in life with love and faith, and the sky's the limit of what you can do. Use the talent you have. The Lord gave each one of you a gift and a talent. Use it to the best of your ability and enjoy every day with a smile and sunshine.